The Council betrayed humans. Now war is declared. The massive crystalline dome of the Galactic Council chamber stretched impossibly high above Admiral James Harlow as he stood before the curved array of alien representatives. The chamber itself was a feat of engineering beyond human comprehension. Walls that shifted and shimmered with colors no human eye could naturally perceive. Gravity that adjusted seamlessly to accommodate the physiology of hundreds of different species. Harlow forced himself to breathe steadily as he faced the semicircular arrangement of podiums where the ruling members of the council sat. 57 different species, each controlling vast interstellar empires, each with technology centuries beyond Earth's capabilities. Their eyes, some multifaceted, some bulbous, some merely sensory pits, all focused on the lone human standing before them. The council recognizes the representative of Earth, announced the Grand Arbiter Zelnar, a towering being with skin like polished obsidian, and 4 arms that moved with unsettling precision. His voice required no amplification to fill the chamber, a subtle reminder of the biological superiority many council races claimed over humans. Behind Harlow stood the small Earth delegation, Ambassador Wilson, Science Director Reeves, and 3 security officers who looked comically insignificant beside the massive Drakari guards that flanked the chamber entrance. This was humanity's 3rd appearance before the Council since first contact 18 months ago, but the first where Earth would formally petition for protection status. Honorable members of the Galactic Council, Harlow began, his voice steady despite the tension twisting his stomach. Earth extends gratitude for this audience. We come seeking mutual cooperation and defensive alliance within Council space. A ripple of sounds, some like laughter, others like growls, passed through the gathered representatives. Admiral Harlow, Zelnar replied, leaning forward slightly. Your species has barely achieved rudimentary faster-than-light travel. Your colonies number only 4. What possible benefit would the Council derive from extending protection to such an undeveloped civilization? The slight pause before undeveloped wasn't lost on Harlow. The Council had been watching Earth for decades before making contact, observing humanity's violent history, resource wars, and environmental missteps with thinly veiled disdain. What we lack in technological advancement, we offer in cultural diversity and adaptive thinking, Harlow responded, activating the holographic display embedded in his palm. The center of the chamber filled with images from Earth, music performances, art galleries, sprawling cities beside natural wonders. Humanity has produced 17,000 distinct cultural traditions, 9,000 languages and art forms that span from the microscopic to the monumental. Our adaptability is unmatched in Council records. From the upper tier, Councillor Vriz of the Morlai Collective made a dismissive gesture with one of her tentacles. Cultural achievements are irrelevant without stability. Your species still engages in territorial conflicts. Your planet remains divided into competing nation-states, which were unified upon discovery of your existence, Ambassador Wilson interjected, stepping forward to stand beside Harlow. Earth now speaks with one voice, as evidenced by our presence here. Harlow nodded gratefully to Wilson before continuing. More importantly, we've studied Council history thoroughly. In the last 3 centuries, the Council has faced 17 significant threats from beyond its borders. In 14 of those conflicts, conventional military responses proved insufficient. The chamber grew notably quieter. Harlow knew he was treading on sensitive ground. The Council didn't appreciate reminders of its failures. Continue, Zelnar commanded, his 4 eyes narrowing. Humans think differently, Harlow said simply. Our evolutionary path as prey animals that became apex predators created unique cognitive patterns. We see solutions where hierarchical thinking fails, he gestured, and the holographic display changed to show mathematical simulations of past Council conflicts, overlaid with alternative strategic approaches. Our analysts have modeled historical Council encounters with the Vorax Swarm, the Shifting Plague, and the Quantum Schism. In each case, human strategic approaches would have reduced casualties by at least 60%. Science Director Reeves stepped forward, her voice clear and confident. We've also identified vulnerable points in current Council defense systems that could be addressed with surprisingly simple modifications. This caused an immediate uproar. Several Council members rose from their seats, voicing outrage in various languages that the translation system struggled to process simultaneously. Silence, Zelnar commanded, and the chamber immediately quieted. You claim to have identified weaknesses in our defenses? This could be interpreted as a prelude to hostile action. Harlow remained calm. Or as proof of our value as allies. We've prepared a secure data package demonstrating 3 critical vulnerabilities in the Helios barrier network. These weaknesses would be obvious to any potential enemy, with thought patterns similar to ours. This was humanity's gambit. Demonstrate value by pointing out what the Council had missed, while simultaneously showing they could have kept this information to themselves if their intentions were hostile. The package is encrypted, Reeves added. The decryption key will be provided after formal acceptance of Earth's protection status. Councillor Drav of the Zentari Union, who had remained silent until now, leaned forward. His crystalline form refracted light as he moved. This approach is unprecedented, either exceptionally bold or exceptionally foolish. We prefer efficient, Harlow replied. Earth doesn't have centuries to slowly earn trust through conventional channels. The Baryon Expanse is pushing into systems near Sol. We need protection now, and we're offering valuable insight in exchange. Several council members exchanged glances. The Baryon Expanse, a region of space where normal physical laws broke down, had been a growing concern for decades. Zelnar's secondary arms folded, in a gesture that the human delegation had learned indicated deep thought. The council will deliberate on this matter. You will be summoned when a decision is reached. As the Earth delegation was escorted from the chamber, Ambassador Wilson whispered to Harlow. That went about as expected. They'll accept, Harlow replied quietly. They're too curious about what else we might see that they've missed. Back in their assigned quarters, the delegation gathered around a secure communication terminal. The room, though luxurious by human standards, was undoubtedly monitored. They spoke accordingly. Director Reeves, is the contingency package still secure? Harlow asked. She nodded. Dormant but ready. Distributed across all council systems we've had access to during our visits. Wilson looked troubled. I still hope we won't need it. As do I, Harlow agreed. But hope isn't a strategy. The historical data is clear. The Council accepts new species either as protected vassals or as controlled subjects. If they deny our petition, then we activate the contingency, Reeves finished for him, and demonstrate why humanity should be respected, not controlled. 3 hours later, a Drakari guard appeared at their door. The Council has reached its decision, the massive being announced. Your presence is required immediately. As they re-entered the Great Chamber, Harlow noted subtle changes in the positioning of the Council members. The military representatives had moved closer to the center, while diplomatic and scientific counselors had been relegated to the outer edges. Not a good sign. Grand Arbiter Zelnar rose to his full height as the humans approached. Admiral Harlow, the Council has reviewed your petition for protection status and examined your claims regarding our defense networks. Harlow felt a cold knot form in his stomach. Zelnar's tone had changed, becoming more formal, more distant. We find your assessment of our vulnerabilities to be exaggerated at best, fabricated at worst, Zelnar continued. Furthermore, the fact that you have been probing our defense systems during your diplomatic visits constitutes a serious breach of trust. Wilson stepped forward. Grand Arbiter, we have not— Silence, Zelnar commanded. The Council has decided. Earth will not be granted protection status. Instead, a Council Oversight Committee will be established to monitor human development and ensure compliance with interstellar regulations. All human faster-than-light vessels will be fitted with Council control systems. Earth's military capabilities will be limited to system defense only. The chamber remained deathly quiet as Zelnar delivered what amounted to a declaration of Earth's subjugation. In addition, Zelnar continued, in light of your unauthorized analysis of Council defense systems, we have dispatched security forces to establish monitoring stations in your home system. They departed shortly after your delegation arrived for this meeting. Harlow's expression remained neutral, but his mind raced. The Council had already sent ships to Sol. This wasn't a negotiation. It was the prelude to an invasion disguised as oversight. I see, Harlow said finally. The Council has made its position clear. He glanced briefly at Director Reeves, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. There's just one matter you may wish to reconsider, Harlow continued, his voice now carrying a subtle edge that made several Council members shift uncomfortably. And what might that be? Selnar asked dismissively. The contingency we prepared in case of exactly this scenario, Harlow. The emergency bunker beneath New Geneva shook as another orbital strike hit the city's shields. Commander Alexis Reed watched the tactical display with narrowed eyes as dust trickled from the ceiling. 30 days had passed since the Council's betrayal, and Earth's resistance was holding barely. Status report, she demanded, her voice steady despite having slept only 6 hours in the past 3 days. Eastern shield grid at 42%, reported Lieutenant Daniels, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Council dropships attempting insertion in sectors 7 through 11. Orbital bombardment continuing in a standard Keldari pattern. Reed nodded grimly. The Keldari were one of the Council's primary military species, 6-limbed predators with an almost religious devotion to mathematical precision in warfare. Their attack patterns followed strict geometric progressions, making them simultaneously predictable and nearly impossible to counter due to their overwhelming firepower. What about the civilian evacuations? Reed asked, turning to Dr. Maya Torres, the evacuation coordinator. 87% complete, Torres replied, her face haggard from weeks of non-stop crisis management. The underground transit network is holding, but we've lost contact with evac centers in the northern district. The bunker's main doors slid open with a pneumatic hiss as Director Marcus Harrington entered. Once Earth's representative to the Galactic Council's Science Division, now he was the architect of humanity's most desperate technological gambit. Commander Reed, he said without preamble, Project Lazarus is ready for field deployment. A hushed silence fell over the command center. Project Lazarus wasn't supposed to be operational for another 3 weeks, you're certain? Reed asked, studying Harrington's face for any sign of doubt. He nodded, his expression grave but confident. The Council gave us no choice but to accelerate the timeline. The principles are sound. The systems are tested. It's now or never. Reed turned back to the tactical display. New Geneva was one of Earth's last major cities still holding out against the Council's peacekeeping forces, the euphemism they used for the invasion fleet that had arrived in Sol system 30 days ago. Paris, London, New Beijing, and Neo-Tokyo had already fallen. The moon colonies had been reduced to rubble in the opening salvos. What's the deployment range? She asked. Planetary, Harrington answered. Once activated, the effect will cover Earth and extend approximately 500,000 kilometers outward, enough to encompass the invasion fleet in low orbit. Reed took a deep breath. Project Lazarus had been theoretical when the Council first betrayed Earth, a desperate idea based on research that the Council had dismissed as impossible. If it failed, they would lose what little advantage of surprise they had left. Do it, she ordered. Harrington moved to a secured terminal and began the activation sequence, his authorization requiring both biometric confirmation and a series of encryption keys known only to the highest levels of Earth's unified command. The Council still thinks they understand us, Harrington said quietly as he worked. They believe we fight like they do, with conventional weapons and traditional tactics. They don't understand what desperation has taught us. Reed nodded. When the Council had sent their oversight committee to Earth, actually an invasion force meant to subjugate humanity and strip mine the planet's resources, they had expected quick capitulation. Instead, they found a species that had been preparing for existential threats since the atomic age. A species that had, upon first contact with the Council, immediately begun developing contingencies for betrayal. Activation in 3, 2, 1. Harrington pressed his palm against the final confirmation panel. Lazarus is online. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the tactical displays flickered, died, and rebooted with new information. Outside, the incessant thunder of orbital bombardment suddenly ceased. It's working, Lieutenant Daniels whispered, staring at his readouts in amazement. Council ships are reporting massive system failures. Their targeting systems, propulsion, even life support, all compromised. What the Council hadn't known, what Earth's representatives had kept carefully hidden, was that humans had developed a fundamentally different approach to technology. While Council species relied on quantum crystalline computing that was eons ahead of Earth's silicon-based systems, humans had been pursuing an alternative path. Organic synthetic hybrid technology that mimicked biological neural networks project. Lazarus was the culmination of this research, a field effect that disrupted the precise quantum states that Council technology relied upon, while leaving Earth's cruder but more adaptable systems unaffected. Open a channel to all Earth forces, Reed ordered. It's time for Phase 2. Throughout the solar system, hidden Earth vessels that had been playing dead or concealing themselves within asteroids suddenly powered up. They weren't large ships, nothing like the Council's massive dreadnoughts, but they were numerous and now held the advantage of fully functioning systems against a crippled enemy. This is Commander Reed to all Earth Defense Forces, she broadcast, her voice carrying to resistance fighters across the planet and throughout the system. Lazarus is active. Operation Phoenix commencing now. All units execute your objectives. Across Earth, humans emerged from underground bunkers and hidden bases targeting the now vulnerable Council ground forces. In orbit, Earth's small but determined fleet began systematically disabling the Council warships that now drifted helplessly, their once superior technology rendered useless by Lazarus Field. We're receiving transmissions from the Council flagship, Daniels reported. They're requesting terms of surrender. Reed exchanged glances with Harrington. They don't understand yet, do they? That this isn't just about Earth? Harrington shook his head. No. The Council never bothered to study our history closely enough. They don't know what happens when humans are backed into a corner. Reed turned to the communications officer. Patch me through to the Council commander. The main display flickered, revealing the face of Grand Admiral Tizak of the Vordani Dominion. His scaled face showed the Vordani equivalent of barely controlled rage. What have you done? He demanded without preamble. This attack on Council forces violates all interstellar conventions of warfare. Reed smiled coldly. Interesting perspective from an invasion force that targeted civilian population centers. But to answer your question, we've simply changed the rules of engagement. You cannot win this conflict, Tizak hissed. The Council controls thousands of worlds. Your primitive technology is currently rendering your advanced fleet helpless, Reed interrupted. But this is just the beginning, Admiral. While you were bombarding our cities, we were implementing the second phase of our response. She nodded to Harrington, who activated another display. It showed dozens of small stealth human vessels departing the solar system via irregular FTL vectors that the Council's sensors couldn't track. What are those? Tezak demanded. Seed ships, Reed answered. Each carrying the specifications for Lazarus technology, heading to every corner of Council space. Some to your subject worlds that chafe under Council rule, others to neutral species you've threatened into compliance. By the time your reinforcements arrive here, half the Council's empire will be in open revolt. The Admiral's expression shifted from rage to something closer to horrified realization. You would destabilize the entire galactic order over one world? You forced our hand, Reed replied evenly. We came to the Council seeking alliance. You chose subjugation instead. Now you face the consequences. Harrington stepped forward. The Council has always approached conflicts through overwhelming force and superior technology. But humanity evolved through adaptation and unconventional thinking. You studied our weapons, but not our history. A serious oversight. On screens throughout the command center, reports were flooding in from across the solar system. Council ground forces, cut off from orbital support and with their advanced weapon systems failing, were being systematically contained and captured. In orbit, Earth vessels were attaching tow cables to disabled Council ships, pulling them into stable holding patterns where they could neither escape nor threaten the planet below. Here are our terms, Admiral, Reed stated. The complete withdrawal of all Council forces from the Sol system. Formal recognition of Earth's independence and sovereignty. Reparations for the damage inflicted upon our colonies and cities. The Council will never agree to... The Council is no longer in a position to dictate terms. Reed cut him off. Even now our agents are delivering Lazarus technology to the Kree Collective, the Dorzani Alliance, and 6 other species that have suffered under Council exploitation. Your empire is about to fragment, Admiral. How it happens is up to you. Tizak's expression hardened. This is nothing short of revolution. We prefer to call it correction, Harrington interjected. The Council has ruled through technological superiority for too long. That advantage has ended. As if to emphasize his point, the tactical displays updated with new information. 3 Council reinforcement vessels had just entered the outer system, only to immediately fall victim to the expanding Lazarus field. Their dramatic deceleration from faster-than-light travel into effectively dead ships appeared. How the Council betrayed humans, now war is declared. The vast bridge of the Earth warship Defiance hummed with controlled tension as Admiral Diana Russell studied the tactical display. Before her, the holographic representation of the Arcturus system glowed with the positions of both friendly and enemy vessels. The Council's defense fleet, 17 capital ships and 36 support vessels, held position around Arcturus Prime, the system's primary inhabited world and location of a major Council shipyard. Status of the fleet? Russell asked, her voice calm despite the imminent battle. All vessels in position, Admiral, replied Commander Jackson, her tactical officer. Cloaking systems holding stable. Enemy sensors show no indication they've detected us. Russell nodded. 3 months of bitter conflict had transformed humanity from victims into formidable opponents. When the Council had betrayed Earth, launching a surprise attack on human colonies before declaring them a destabilizing influence on galactic order, they'd expected a brief, one-sided conflict. Instead, they'd awakened a sleeping giant. Signal all ships to initiate Phase 1, Russell ordered. Commence Operation Shadowfall. Throughout the hidden human fleet, specially designed devices activated simultaneously. These weren't conventional weapons. The Council's superior firepower would have made that approach suicidal. Instead, they were the product of humanity's greatest advantage, thinking differently than any other species in the galaxy. Quantum field disruptors online, reported Science Officer Navarro from his station. Field expanding at predicted rate. On the tactical display, a subtle wave of distortion spread outward from the human vessels, invisible to standard Council sensors but devastating to their advanced targeting systems. Within moments, the effect reached the Council fleet. Council vessels experiencing primary systems fluctuations, Jackson reported, unable to keep a note of satisfaction from her voice. Their targeting arrays are going offline. Communication networks fragmenting. Russell allowed herself a small smile. The quantum field disruptors were one of Earth's hidden weapons, technology that the Council had believed was theoretical at best, impossible at worst. By generating localized fields that altered the quantum probability state of specific subatomic particles, the disruptors rendered Council weapons temporarily useless without damaging the ships themselves. Phase 2, Russell commanded. Deploy the Phantoms. From the launch bays of each human vessel, swarms of small craft emerged. Unlike traditional fighters, these were unmanned drones controlled by advanced AI systems. Their hulls incorporated metamaterials that absorbed sensor scans rather than reflecting them, making them nearly invisible to Council detection systems. Phantoms away, confirmed Flight Officer Mendez. Infiltration patterns executing. The drones accelerated toward the confused Council fleet, targeting communication arrays, sensor nodes, and external weapon systems. They weren't designed to destroy the vessels, but to blind and isolate them, cutting each ship off from the coordinated defense network that gave Council forces their greatest advantage. Russell watched as the tactical display updated in real time. The Council ships, represented by red icons, began to move erratically, their formation breaking apart as captains lost contact with each other in Central Command. They're starting to realize what's happening, Jackson noted. Several vessels attempting to re-establish communications using auxiliary systems. Right on schedule, Russell replied. Initiate Phase 3. Throughout the human fleet, a different type of system activated. Where the quantum disruptors had targeted Council weapons, these devices, nicknamed ghost signals by their designers, flooded Council communication channels with thousands of phantom transmissions. Each appeared to be legitimate orders from Council command, but each contradicted the others, creating mass confusion. On the main view screen, Russell could now see the Council fleet directly. The massive ships, each one dwarfing even the largest human vessels, were moving in conflicting patterns, some attempting to maintain position while others began retreat or attack maneuvers based on the false commands they were receiving. Admiral, Navarro called out suddenly, we're detecting power spikes from 3 Council dreadnoughts. They appear to be attempting to reset their systems with a full power cycle. Russell nodded. They're adapting faster than expected. Signal the Artemis and Orion battle groups to move to secondary positions. Prepare for direct engagement. As the human fleet adjusted its formation, Russell reflected on how the war had evolved. In the beginning, humanity had fought defensively, using the Lazarus technology to neutralize Council advantages while evacuating threatened colonies. But over the past month, Earth forces had shifted to an offensive strategy, targeting key Council infrastructure and supply lines. Council dreadnoughts restoring partial capabilities, Jackson reported, tension evident in her voice. They're charging weapons systems. They can't target us effectively through the quantum field, Russell reminded her. But maintain evasive protocols. Bring our conventional weapons online and target their sensor arrays first. Unlike Council vessels, which relied on exotic energy weapons, human ships employed a mixture of kinetic projectiles, tactical nuclear devices, and directed electromagnetic pulses. Less elegant, perhaps, but far less susceptible to the quantum disruption that was crippling the Council fleet. All ships, weapons free, Russell ordered. Execute precision strikes only. Remember, we need those shipyards intact. The human fleet decloaked simultaneously, appearing like ghosts around the disorganized Council forces. Streaks of light erupted from Earth vessels as railgun projectiles accelerated to tremendous velocities, striking Council ships with pinpoint accuracy. Each impact targeted communications equipment, sensor arrays, and external weapon mounts. Direct hits on primary targets, Jackson confirmed. Council fleet weapons capability reduced to 27%. On the view screen, Russell watched as the Council dreadnoughts attempted to coordinate a response. Under normal circumstances, their superior firepower would have decimated the human fleet. But with their targeting systems compromised and their formation shattered, they resembled wounded behemoths rather than the terror of the galaxy. Admiral, Communications Officer Rivera interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from the Council flagship. Audio only, Russell nodded. Put it through. The bridge speakers crackled with static before clearing to reveal a voice filled with barely contained fury. This is Grand Commander Zelvac of the Galactic Council Defense Force. Your unprovoked attack on Council assets violates all principles of civilized warfare. Surrender immediately or face total destruction. Russell exchanged glances with her senior officers before responding. Grand Commander, this is Admiral Russell of the Earth Defense Fleet. I suggest you check your historical records. Your forces attacked our colonies without provocation 3 months ago. We're simply returning the favor. Your primitive tactics cannot prevail against the Council, Zelvac replied, though his confidence sounded forced. Even now, reinforcements are en route. You mean the battle group from the Vega sector? Russell asked casually. I'm afraid they've been delayed indefinitely, much like your supply convoy from Centauri Prime last week, and your communications relay in the Tau system the week before that. A lengthy silence followed before Zelvac responded. How could you possibly know about those deployments? Russell smiled grimly, though the Council commander couldn't see it. That's the problem with running an empire through standardized protocols, Commander. Once the pattern is understood, it becomes predictable. The truth, which Russell had no intention of revealing, was far more impressive than mere predictive analysis. When Earth had first been admitted to the Council 3 years ago, they had been dismissed as technological primitives. That dismissal had allowed human intelligence operatives to place quantum entanglement devices throughout key Council facilities, creating an undetectable surveillance network that had been gathering data long before the betrayal. Final warning, Zelvac growled. Stand down or be destroyed, Russell sighed. Look at your tactical display, Commander. Half your fleet is dead in space. The other half can't target us effectively through the quantum disruption field. Meanwhile, my ships are systematically disabling your remaining weapons. This isn't a battle anymore, it's a salvage operation. She nodded to Rivera, who cut the communication. Status of Arcturus Prime defenses? Russell asked, turning back to the tactical situation. Planetary shields at full strength, Jackson reported. Ground-based weapon emplacements still operational, but they're having the same targeting issues as the fleet. Russell studied the holographic display, considering their next move. Arcturus Prime wasn't just a shipyard. It was a major Council administrative center, containing valuable intelligence that could help turn the tide of the war. Taking it intact would be a significant victory for Earth. Prepare landing forces, she decided. Target the shield generators with EMP weapons first. Once the shields are down, deploy the ghost teams to secure the Central Administration Complex and Shipyard Control Center. Ghost teams were Earth's elite special forces, equipped with the most advanced stealth technology humans had developed. Each operator carried personal quantum disruption fields, making them effectively. The Council betrayed humans, now war is declared. The emergency council chamber bore little resemblance to the majestic hall where the betrayal of humanity had been orchestrated 8 months earlier. Gone were the soaring crystalline arches and the ornate podiums for each of the 57 member species. This cramped, utilitarian space on the mobile command platform, eternal vigilance, reflected the desperation that now gripped the once mighty Galactic Council. High Arbiter Zolnar moved with careful dignity to the central position, his obsidian skin dulled with stress and his normally imposing frame slightly stooped. Around him, the remaining council representatives took their places, only 39 now, a stark reminder of how the conflict had fractured the galaxy's oldest governing body. "This emergency session is convened," Zolnar announced, his voice lacking its former resonance. "Security protocols are at maximum. No transmissions leave this chamber." The representatives exchanged uneasy glances. Such extreme measures were unprecedented in the Council's 12,000-year history. "The situation has deteriorated beyond our initial projections," Zolnar continued bluntly. "In the past 30 days alone, humans have captured 3 primary shipyard facilities, disabled 7 strategic defense networks, and," he paused as if the words physically pained him, "successfully convinced 6 member species to declare neutrality in this conflict." Councillor Trivax of the Ordani Confederation rose, his crystalline form flashing with agitation. "These defections are outrageous. The Pelraxi, the Vordani, the Zentari, founding members of the Council, abandoning millennia of alliance." "They haven't abandoned the Council," countered Councillor Mira of the Thesari Unity, her feathered crest flat against her skull in a display of disagreement. "They've abandoned a war that we started through deception, and that we are now losing." The chamber erupted in overlapping voices, some defending the Council's original decision to subjugate humanity, others questioning the wisdom of having provoked such a resourceful species. "Silence," Zolnar commanded, striking his staff against the floor. When order was restored, he continued with grim determination. "Recriminations serve no purpose. We must address the immediate crisis. Admiral Krivak, your assessment of our military position." Admiral Krivak, a grizzled veteran of the Dorzani species, activated the central holographic display. The image showed a galaxy-wide strategic map, with Council-controlled space in blue and human-influenced territories in red. The red areas had expanded dramatically since the previous assessment. "The humans continue to employ tactics we cannot effectively counter," Krivak admitted, his tone professional despite the grim news. "Their quantum disruption technology has spread to 17 systems, rendering our conventional weapons useless in those regions. Their cloaked vessels continue to strike key infrastructure with minimal warning." He gestured, and the display zoomed in on a particular sector. "Most concerning is their success in exploiting divisions within our alliance. The humans are not simply fighting us, they are systematically offering favorable terms to any species willing to break from the Council. Bribes and false promises," spat Councillor Drex of the Thraxi. "Dominion, actually. They appear to be honoring every agreement," Krivak corrected. "The Zentari received the autonomy they were promised. The Pelraxi gained access to the medical technologies we had restricted. The Vordani had their colonial territories restored." This revelation caused a stir among the representatives. The Council had long maintained control partly through carefully managed resource allocation and technology restrictions. "What is their overall strategy?" asked Zolnar. "They must know they cannot defeat the entire Council, even with these temporary advantages." From the shadows at the edge of the chamber stepped a figure few had noticed until now. Director Laris of Council Intelligence moved to the central platform, her slender form and pale skin marking her as one of the reclusive Illuvian species who rarely appeared in public council sessions. "High Arbiter, honored representatives," she began, her voice soft but carrying clearly. "Based on our latest intelligence, the humans are not attempting to defeat the Council militarily. They are attempting to dismantle it politically." She took control of the holographic display, shifting it to show communication patterns between human diplomatic vessels and various Council worlds. "In the past 3 months, humans have established direct diplomatic contacts with 42 member species, bypassing Council protocols entirely. In each case, they have shared evidence of historical council deceptions, including the fabricated intelligence used to justify the initial attack on Earth. That information was classified, exclaimed Counselor Trevax. The humans apparently had infiltrated our networks long before the conflict began, Laris explained. While we were dismissing them as technological primitives, they were studying us more thoroughly than we studied them. She changed the display again, showing a human diplomatic transmission intercepted 2 weeks earlier. Their stated goal is not the destruction of the Council, but its reformation. They're proposing a new galactic governance structure, one based on equal representation rather than technological hierarchy. High Arbiter Zolnar's secondary arms twitched in agitation. Preposterous. Many member species lack the development to participate as equals. That perspective, came a new voice from the chamber entrance, is precisely why the Council is fracturing. All heads turned to see Supreme Counselor Valen of the Zentari Communion standing in the doorway. His presence was shocking. The Zentari had declared neutrality in the conflict weeks ago, and Valen had not been invited to this emergency session. This is a closed meeting, Zolnar declared. Security protocols were bypassed with the assistance of 7 members of this very council, Valen interrupted calmly, entering the chamber fully. Behind him followed representatives from the Pelraxi Federation, the Vordanai Collective, and 4 other species that had officially distanced themselves from the conflict. The chamber erupted into chaos again, with accusations of treason flying from the war-supporting factions while others fell silent, watching the confrontation with evident concern. We come with a proposal, Valen announced when the tumult subsided, one that may yet preserve something of the Council's legacy, if not its current structure. You have no standing to make proposals here, Zolnar replied, though his tone lacked conviction. Valen smiled thinly. Perhaps not under the old protocols, but the reality of our situation has rendered those protocols meaningless. The humans have offered terms directly to the Zentari and other neutral parties. We, in turn, have been authorized to present a comprehensive peace proposal to the remaining council. He approached the central platform and connected a small device to the holographic system. The display changed to show a document titled Galactic Concordat, Framework for Peaceful Transition. The humans and their allies are prepared to cease all military actions immediately. Valen explained, in exchange for the following: complete withdrawal of Council forces from Earth's claimed systems, reparations for damaged colonies, and most significantly, the dissolution of the current Council structure in favor of a new galactic assembly with equal voting rights regardless of technological development. This is surrender, not peace. Counselor Drex shouted, rising from his seat in fury. It is adaptation, Valen countered, something the Council has forgotten how to do in its millennia of unchallenged rule. Admiral Krivak studied the proposed terms with a military strategist's eye. And if we refuse? Director Laris answered before Valen could. Based on current trajectories, the coalition of human forces and their growing number of allies will control or neutralize 60% of Council space within 3 months. Within 6 months, the Council as a governing body will cease to function effectively regardless of our military resistance. The chamber grew quiet as the representatives absorbed this assessment. How did it come to this? Zolnar asked, his voice barely above a whisper. How did a species unknown to us a mere 4 years ago bring the Council to the brink of dissolution? We underestimated them, Laris replied simply. We saw their short interstellar history and dismissed them as primitives. We noted their internal conflicts and judged them disorganized. We observed their varied approaches to problems and considered them inefficient. She changed the display to show historical footage of human development, their rapid technological acceleration, their recovery from devastating wars, their adaptation to environmental challenges. What we failed to recognize, she continued, was that these apparent weaknesses were actually sources of strength. Their conflicts drove innovation. Their diverse approaches provided multiple solutions to problems. Their brief but intense history taught them to adapt quickly or perish. Valen nodded in agreement. The Council has maintained stability through control for thousands of years. Humans achieved extraordinary progress through controlled chaos in mere centuries. When we betrayed them, we forced them to apply to interstellar warfare the same adaptability they had developed throughout their evolution. High Arbiter Zolnar slumped slightly, the weight of history visibly heavy on his shoulders. And what of those? Are the Council betrayed humans now war is declared? The Great Hall of Unity Station hung suspended in space at the precise gravitational balance point between three star systems, a neutral location where, 2 years after the Council's betrayal of Earth, representatives from across the galaxy gathered to formalize a new era of interstellar relations. Ambassador Michael Torres of Earth stood at the viewport, watching as diplomatic vessels from over 100 species docked with the massive station. Some were former Council members, others independent worlds that had never been granted Council recognition, and still others newly spacefaring civilizations invited as equals to this historic gathering. "Quite the sight, isn't it?" remarked Admiral Elena Vega, coming to stand beside him. Her dress uniform, adorned with the commendations of a dozen hard-fought battles, contrasted with Torres's more formal diplomatic attire. 2 years ago, half these species wouldn't have been allowed in the same room together. Torres nodded, his expression thoughtful. And the other half wouldn't have existed as far as the Council was concerned. Acknowledgement was reserved for those who met their arbitrary standards of development. They both turned as Director Nathan Reeves approached, datapad in hand. As head of Earth's Intelligence Division, Reeves had been instrumental in the war effort, coordinating the covert operations that had given humanity its critical early advantages. "Final security sweep is complete," Reeves reported. "No signs of sabotage or unauthorized surveillance. The Concordat chamber is ready." "And our guests of honor?" Torres asked. "Former High Arbiter Zolnar and the other Council leadership have arrived under diplomatic escort," Reeves confirmed. "They've been treated with full diplomatic courtesy as agreed." Vega's expression tightened slightly. These were, after all, the beings who had orchestrated the attack on human colonies that had killed thousands. But the path forward required setting aside vengeance in favor of justice and reconciliation. "It's time," Torres said, checking the chronometer on his wrist. "The founding assembly will begin in 20 minutes. Together, the three humans made their way through Unity Station's sweeping corridors. The architecture itself represented a break from the past, neither human nor Council in design, but something entirely new, created by a collaborative team from 12 species. Graceful arches incorporated elements from diverse cultural traditions, while practical considerations accommodated the physical needs of vastly different life forms. As they approached the Concordat chamber, they passed delegations from worlds that had once been bitter enemies. The Zentari and Pelraxi, whose 1,000-year conflict had been exploited by the Council to maintain control over both, now engaged in amicable conversation. Representatives from the Thraxi Dominion, initially among the most hostile toward humans, walked alongside delegates from Earth's closest allies. "They're adapting quickly," Reeves observed. "Survival is a powerful motivator," Vega replied. "Most of these species recognize that the old order is gone for good." The Concordat chamber itself took Torres's breath away every time he entered it. Circular by design, it featured concentric rings of seating around a central platform. Unlike the old Council chamber, which had physically elevated the most powerful species, this arrangement placed all delegates on the same level. Advanced translation systems ensured that every word spoken would be instantly comprehensible to all present, regardless of biological communication methods. As Earth's lead diplomat, Torres took his position in the innermost ring alongside representatives from the 20 founding species of the new Galactic Concordat. Some, like the Zentari and Pelraxi, were former Council powerhouses. Others, like the Rithvari, a species the Council had relegated to protected status despite their advanced philosophical development, were taking their place in galactic politics for the first time. At precisely the designated hour, the chamber's subtle lighting shifted to signal the beginning of the historic session. First speaker Talia Devrin of Earth stepped onto the central platform. Though not technically superior in rank to other delegation leaders, she had been selected by unanimous vote to guide this inaugural assembly. "Representatives of sovereign worlds," Devrin began, her voice clear and strong. "We gather today to formalize what began as an act of resistance and has evolved into an opportunity for transformation. The Galactic Concordat is not merely a peace treaty ending the conflict between Earth and the former Council. It represents a fundamental reimagining of how diverse species can coexist and cooperate across the vast expanse of our shared galaxy. Around the chamber, translation systems conveyed her words in hundreds of languages simultaneously. Visual displays accommodated species that communicated through color or light patterns rather than sound. 2 years ago, Devrin continued, the former Galactic Council betrayed not only Earth, but their own stated principles when they attacked our colonies under false pretenses. That betrayal revealed structural flaws in a system that had governed interstellar relations for 12 millennia. She gestured toward the section where former council leaders sat. We have invited those who once led that system to witness its transformation, not as prisoners or penitents, but as participants in creating something better. Former High Arbiter Zolnar rose briefly in acknowledgement, his once imposing frame now bent with the burden of responsibility for the conflict. Beside him sat other former council leaders who had chosen cooperation over continued resistance. The document before us today, Devrin said, activating the central holographic display, establishes 3 fundamental principles upon which our new interstellar community will be built. The first section of the Concordat appeared, rotating slowly for all to see. First, the principle of sovereign equality. All sentient species, regardless of technological development, population size, or length of interstellar presence, hold equal standing in matters of galactic governance. No world may impose its will upon another through force or coercion. The display shifted to the second section. Second, the principle of transparent governance. All deliberations, decisions, and enforcement actions of the Concordat will be openly accessible to member worlds. The era of secret protocols and hidden agendas ends today. The final section appeared. Third, the principle of cultural autonomy combined with shared responsibility. Each species retains the right to develop according to its own values and traditions, while accepting responsibility for actions that affect the wider galactic community. As Devrin spoke, Ambassador Torres watched the reactions around the chamber. Most delegates showed signs of approval, though these varied wildly across different physiologies, from the subtle color shifts of the crystalline Pelraxi to the synchronized swaying of the communal thrive. Collective, but principles alone are not enough, Devrin continued. The Concordat also establishes practical mechanisms for implementation. She detailed the structure of the new interstellar governance. Rotating leadership positions to prevent power consolidation, a dispute resolution system based on principles of restorative justice rather than punitive measures, and shared defense protocols to protect all member worlds from external threats. Most importantly, she emphasized, the Concordat creates pathways for technology, sharing and cultural exchange that benefit all while respecting the unique developmental path of each civilization. This had been one of the most contentious points during negotiations. The former council had maintained control partly by restricting technology transfers, creating artificial hierarchies between species. The new system encouraged innovation through collaboration while establishing ethical frameworks to prevent misuse. When Devrin concluded her presentation, the chamber fell silent for a moment before erupting in the diverse sounds of approval from dozens of species. The formal ratification process began, with each delegation approaching the central platform to record their acceptance. Torres moved to join Earth's delegation for the ratification, but was intercepted by an unexpected figure, Counselor Drav of the Zentari, one of the first former council members to reach out to humans during the conflict. Ambassador Torres, Drav greeted him, the translation rendering his complex harmonic speech into clear English. Before the formal proceedings conclude, I wish to share something with you privately. Torres nodded, stepping aside with the Zentari representative. Of course, Counselor. Not Counselor any longer, Drav corrected gently. Just representative now, like yourself. He extended a data crystal, its surface shimmering with stored information. Our deep space monitoring network has detected something concerning, beyond the former council frontier. Torres accepted the crystal with a questioning look. A threat? Possibly. Or perhaps merely a new civilization approaching galactic space. Drav's multifaceted eyes reflected the chamber's lights as he continued. What matters is that in the old system, the council would have concealed this information, addressing it in secret without informing lesser species. And now? Torres asked. Now we bring it to the attention of all Concordat members, Drav replied. Whatever awaits us beyond the frontier, we will face it together, with the combined wisdom and unique perspectives of all our peoples.